What's up, you guys? It's Brantzen, and I am back at the Gardens for a session of 5-5-10. So, hit that intro. Cheers.
With the guy Brantzen, who has the Brantzen poker logs.
Let's go! Let's go!
Tell him he's got a lot of class, and it's all low.
The 5-5-10 game at the Gardens has a bomb pot for every new player, so I buy in for $500 to start. This allows me to play my first bomb pot aggressively without worrying about dusting a full stack on my very first hand. So here we go. First hand dealt, I pick up king, queen off under the gun. It's a bomb pot, so everyone goes straight to the flop, which comes queen 10-8 with 2 hearts. I have a good hand here with top pair, good kicker, but it's not strong enough to check raise, so I start off with a bet of $75. The woman on my left calls, it folds around to the hijack, who goes all in for $175. Action's back on me, and now I have a decision to make. The hijack went all in, he could definitely have jack 9 for a flopped straight, but since he's so short stacked, he could also have a variety of draws, top pair holdings, or pair plus draw type hands. I don't think I can fold for 100 more. However, if I just call the extra 100, I'm inviting the woman on my left to come in for a great price. I'm assuming I'm ahead of the range she's flat calling my flop bet with. Alright, let's do it. I'm all in for $475 on my very first hand. The woman snap calls, that does not feel great. Turn is a 10, river 9. I show my cards and they are not good. The woman shows king jack of clubs for a straight, and the hijack had jack queen off for a lower straight. But to be fair, I got it all in as the favorite, so I can't feel too bad. At least that's what I tell myself when I look in the mirror after a losing session. I rebuy for $800, and a while later, I pick up 7-8 of clubs under the gun plus 1. The under the gun limps, and I decide to raise to $45. Only the under the gun limper calls. We're heads up to a flop of king 9-6 with 2 diamonds. The under the gun checks. This board looks good for my range. I bet $40. Now my opponent takes my least favorite option. He raises to $140. I do have an open-ended straight draw, a backdoor flush draw, and I have position, so I make the call, and we're off to a turn which comes a queen. My opponent slows down and checks, and I decide to check back and see a free river. The river is a very interesting card. It's the jack of diamonds. Now any 10 makes a straight, and diamonds hit a flush. Even more interesting, my opponent checks. I doubt he'd be checking flushes here, because I'm going to be checking back a lot of my top pair and 2 pair hands. Also, I can't think of any hands with a 10 that would check raise the flop. So, if he doesn't have the flush or the straight, I can put any other hand in a very difficult spot. I'm looking at 8 high here. I'm going for it. I bet $300. He thinks for about 15 seconds and then makes the call. Dang it, he shows 9-5 of diamonds, so I guess I was wrong, and he did have the flush. Moving on to a different table, hopefully I have better luck, and I pick up aces on the button. I make a standard open to $35, and only the straddle calls. Flop comes out king jack 10 with 2 hearts, the straddle takes the lead and bets $55. I make the call, and we're off to a turn which comes the 4 of hearts, completing the flush draw. The straddle slows down and checks. I decide to check back. I don't want to overvalue my hand with just a single pair, and we're off to a river which comes another 4. The straddle bets $75, and this seems like a great river card to go for some more value. If he flopped 2 pair, I now counterfeit him, so I put in the raise. I make it $250. He thinks about it for a little, but then lets his hand go, and I take down the pot. I get another premium, pocket kings in the big blind. The hijack limps, the button limps, the small blind limps. Time to bump it up, I raise it to $70. The hijack and button make the call. We're 3 ways to a flop of 9-9-7 rainbow. This board definitely doesn't favor my range. I start with a check, and the hijack bets $130. The button folds, my hand is under-repped, but I think only better hands are going to call a raise, so I just call, and we're heads up to a turn which comes an 8. I check, and now the hijack goes all in for $600. Gross. Gross. I go deep in the tank, like 4 minutes deep. I don't know, my hand just does not feel good here. He could have a 9, he could have a full house. There's no real draws. I don't know, I don't know what to do. Ultimately, it came down to this. This whole time I've been tanking, my opponent has been looking really confident. His posture, body language, he's smiling at me. And sometimes this confidence can actually mean the opposite. It could all be an act to hide insecurity and weakness. Oh boy, I don't often make decisions on live reads, but I don't know what else to do here. My heart is pounding. I make the call. The river comes a queen, and my opponent says 3 pair. Okay, thank goodness. I show my cards, and they are good. Looks like I caught him in a massive bluff. Just 2 hands later, I pick up 9-10 of diamonds on the button. The low jack and cutoff both limp. 9-10 suited is one of my personal favorites. I bump it up to $55. Then the opponent I just stacked with kings jams $240 from the big blind. The cutoff goes all in for his remaining $140, and I have a decision to make. All right, math time. If you'd like to see how I calculate percentages in an all-in situation, here you go. First, I take the amount of money I have to put in to make the call, $185. Then, I take the total amount the pot will be if I make the call, including my own money. So, $240 from me, $240 from the big blind, $140 from the cutoff, the limp, and the blinds, that totals $645. Finally, divide the two numbers, and that's the minimum percentage you need to win for this call to be profitable. In my head, I calculated a little less than 30%. The actual number is 28.7%. 9-10 suited should have at least that much equity against most hands, and there's a $200 side pot I only have to beat one person for. Okay, I call. The big blind has ace-queen, the cutoff has king-queen, so I have a 35% chance to win this hand. The flop comes 4-5-6, turn 10. Let's go! River, king. Oh man. The cutoff wins, but I do take the $200 side pot, so instead of losing $55 from my original raise, I lose $40 by calling the all-in. $15 rebate. Probably the most complicated rebate there is. Well, the second most.
The plan? $1.75 gas after rebate. And because it would be such a great deal, it would only be fair to make claiming this rebate a bit more inconvenient than normal by asking customers to drop it off in person at the top of a mountain.
On the top of the mountain. Yeah, that's a good, tricky way to make money.
Moving on, I'm dealt ace-jack off in the small blind. The button opens to $30. This is a 3-bet spot all day. I make it $120. Only the button calls. We're heads up to a flop of king 8-4 rainbow. Very dry board that favors my range. I'm going for a small c-bet of $85. The button calls, and the turn comes the ace of hearts. I now have top pair, but I don't think I'm going to get called by a worse hand if I bet turn and river. Also, I have the jack of hearts blocking a lot of backdoor flush draws, so I check and my opponent checks back. The river is another ace. Great news. I'll probably get called lighter by a king. I bet $200, but now my opponent raises to $600. Yikes. I think about it for 30 seconds. My hand is very under-repped. I make the call, and he shows ace queen. So he outkicked me by 1 and got some nice extra value out of me with his raise.
Yeah, that's a good, tricky way to make money.
Alright, I move seats to get in position of a player who is making crazy aggressive moves, big bluffs, big plays overall. I pick up ace-jack off again, this time in the big blind, the low jack and cutoff limp, and our action player goes all in from the small blind for $550. The very hand before she got caught in a $1,000 bluff, so I know she's on tilt. I go all in for $800, everyone else folds, the board runs out 10 ace, ace, 8 jack. Of course, I win with that run out, but I'm almost positive I was ahead the whole time. Either way, it's nice to win a little money back. It's getting later into the night, we're playing six-handed now, and I get ace-queen off in the big blind. The hijack opens to $30, and I put in the 3-bet to $120. The hijack thinks, then shoves all in for $880. Ace-queen is a good hand, but I think I'm most likely behind here. Feels like ace-king, and there are just better spots to take, so I fold this time. Next, I pick up jack-queen of clubs in the cutoff. There's a double straddle to $20, the hijack limps, and I raise to $80. The $20 straddle calls, the hijack limper calls, were 3 ways to a flop of 10-10 deuce rainbow. Action checks to me. I'm not a huge fan of betting into multiple opponents with nothing, so I check back, and the turn is a jack. Cool. I pick up a pair, action checks to me again. I debate between betting or checking now. Ultimately, I decide to just check for pot control, and I don't want to end up value owning myself against a better jack, like jack king, jack ace, jack 10. The river is the 6 of diamonds, completing the backdoor flush draw. The double straddle checks, but the hijack now bets $225. Well, I didn't check back the turn to fold top pair on the river. My opponent could definitely be making this bet because he senses weakness. I make the call, the other guy folds, and the hijack says 8 high. Definitely great to hear. Looks like the check on the turn induced a bluff and got me paid the maximum.
Yeah, that's a good, tricky way to make money.
The very next hand, I pick up ace-king in the hijack. The under-the-gun player limps, and I raise to $45. Only the under-the-gun limper calls. We're heads up to a flop of king 9-6 with 2 hearts. The under-the-gun checks, and I go for a small c-bet of $35. He calls. The turn comes in offsuit 2. This is a perfect brick to keep barreling on. I should be ahead of most every hand he just called the flop with. So when the under the gun checks, I bet again, this time $120. He once again calls, and the river comes a queen. He checks, and I don't love this card. King queen now beats me, which is one of the main holdings I wanted to get value out of. I still bet $230, targeting king jack and king 10 primarily, maybe a low suited king. If I get raised, I think I can let this one go, but my opponent thinks, then makes the call. I show my cards, and they are good. Anyways, it's getting late, so soon after that, I rack up and cash out.
So that was lovely. I started the day, lost my first all-in in that bomb pot with king queen, $1,500 there, $1,500 bomb pot. Only $500 was mine. But still, starting off 500 down is not fun. And then I went for a bluff. That did not work. I got wrecked another 500 or so. And so I was in for a total of 2,000 today. Kind of had my ups and my downs. Definitely started in a hole, kind of clawed up, and then lost a big pot again. And then clawed back up a little bit. I was out for 1984. For a loss of $16. So that's what I have to show for 5 hours of work. Overall, I was at a pretty tough table. You guys didn't see a lot of pots in which I just raised pre-flop and got 3-bet, and people were using like pretty large 3-betting sizes, and I just had to fold. Yeah, so my opponents were decently aggressive. Unfortunately, I didn't pick up any huge hands when I got 3-bet, so that kind of sucks. And yeah, I'm kind of rambling, so thank you for watching. I think I'm at 20,000 subscribers now, which is absolutely freaking nuts. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one.